So we're looking at the assignment discussion for your level 4 communication skills for business qualification. Now, on here, we're just going to be talking about what your scenario is. Now, because this is your first unit, I'm going to go through the actual assignment, explain what you can do, and then we'll talk about what sort of word counts there should be, how to lay the unit out, and how to reference as well, those things. So each of these ones that you're going to see over, I think, over your next 6 units or so, they're going to have a scenario.
Okay.
Now, this scenario is not you physically going out and doing, having to go and do a trainee for any companies. You're just going to be talking about them throughout your assignment. The best practice for that is whenever you're answering a question, just go in and say, the ones that we're talking about is SHDE holdings. So you talk about, say, communication models. Say, at SHDE holdings, we communicate using these models. So just refer to them throughout.
Okay.
So I'm going to go through the scenario and the report of what we're going to be doing, and then we'll explain bit by bit. So the senior management team, SMT, of a local medium-sized organization has become aware of communication problems within the organizations. Now, customers have been complaining of poor service. The managing director is appalled to see spelling errors in letters, and our suppliers have refused to deliver further goods until they receive a response to their emails and phone calls about their outstanding invoices. So you work with a training consultancy called Training Solutions, and an experienced colleague, Asha Kumari, has established what the problems are in SHDE holdings. So you have been asked to deliver the proposed solutions. So Asha has sent you an email and an attached report. This is it. So it's to Charlotte from Asha Kumari, CC about, and then it's about SHDE holdings. So dear Charlotte, I have recently visited SHDE holdings and attached my report. Please read this carefully. I would like you to finish this project. The business needs a workshop on communication with some training materials like a manual or a handout and a report for SMT. Please carry out the following tasks. So you get a number of tasks that you need to do. And if you notice, not everything is in the same order as what we did in our spec sheet. So we've got them slightly out of order. But don't worry about that. Just follow this and it will be fine. So for the first bit is this will be on a Word document. So you're going to prepare a formal report for a senior staff and line managers at SHDE Holdings. This is 5.1. Now, the fact that you're actually writing a document, you physically are not writing anything for 5.1. The fact that you're making the report, which covers all of these, is you covering 5.1.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So make a note that you're not physically writing anything for 5.1. It just covers it through there. And it's nice that you can get little cut-offs and breaks from having to write too much on some parts. So you will need to use charts and graphs to represent information as appropriate to convey quantitative data. Now this here, physically 5.3, you're not writing anything again. On here, as long as when you're answering these further questions further down, as long as you're using a chart or a graph to show me numerical data, like those bar charts or those line graphs, any of those type of things, then you're covered. So 5.1 and 5.3, if you do it in the correct way, like so, if you create this report answering these questions, and if you use images of charts and graphs, then you're covered. So you're not physically writing anything for those two.
Does it basically just explain the charts and graphs?
Yes, that's right. I'm just going to put a little line through them so you know that they're getting covered, but you're not physically writing an explanation about how to do them.
Yeah, okay.
So this report should include, remember it's a Word document, an analysis of the process of communication within organizations. That covers 1.1, and the barriers that exist within organizations. So meaning communication is sometimes not effective. That's 1.3. So just convey it back to what you're talking about, the process of communication and the barriers, and then you're just going to refer it back to SHDE Holdings, saying SHDE Holdings communicate with these processes. The barriers that exist within SHDE Holdings are, and that's it.
So, like how you give examples, you're kind of making them up.
The examples, you're not technically making them, you will be. With some of them, if you want to elaborate, what you can do is go into Learning Outcome 1, so if I go into here, and then use those points that we've actually got on here as a guideline. So where it tells you what is the process of communication, what good communication is, how to do written, verbal communication, just talk about those. Electronic, so give like 2 paragraphs with a bit of detail in that. And then you can also, which is always good for a assignment, especially at this level, back it up by an example. So instead of give me an example of how you communicate at work, and rather than saying your own company's name, use SHDE Holdings name instead.
Okay.
Yep. So you can say that on a daily basis, I communicate verbally. We use telephone communication a lot to speak to services, to clients, and we do electronic communication so that we can pass forward systems, emails, data that is required, and so on.
So am I talking as if I work for SHDE?
Yeah, so you're going to talk as if you're a representative that wants to tell SHDE. So if you're a trainer, you've gone in and you've seen that your boss has told you, I've gone in and I've seen SHDE Holdings and they're doing this, this and this wrong. And she said that, Charlotte, it's your job now. You're going to create some training programs. So you know exactly what's going wrong at this company. So you're going to pretend that you're giving them advice. So you're saying you're assessing, you're analyzing their communication processes, you're analyzing the barriers that are within there. So the actual processes and the barriers you can make up. That's okay. Use the correct information so you can talk about any processes. Again, like use the PowerPoints as a guide to just look through what processes that we've got. But again, you're just going to add things in. So it's as if you're giving them advice and you're saying, right, I've come in, I've looked at your company, this is what is wrong and this is what I think is the issue. And then you're writing it down with examples. And then any examples that you use, even if it's something that you'll do on a daily basis, just use that company name instead of your company name.
Okay, yeah.
Is that clear? Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, brilliant. So B, so the second section of this is an assessment of the methods of internal communication that should be used for different purposes. So this is when we were talking about formal communication, telephones, when we're talking about complex information, emails. So for this, you're going to support this with an assessment of what other organizations do and examples of what they could apply to SHDE. Now, the best part in this is you're going to say you're assessing SHDE and saying your internal communications can be used better and they can be used for different purposes. Then you say, for example, BIPCH do this for their internal communications. Tesco do this. I recommend that you take on these and and put examples down of what other companies do and go and add that in. So it's like this section is where you're giving them advice of how they should be communicating because they've got bad communication, don't they?
Yeah.
So C is where you're doing an assessment of how organizations portray themselves through communications. So what sort of image does SHDE Holdings have? Now, they've got a bad image, don't they, Charlotte? They've got spelling mistakes. Suppliers aren't getting paid on time because there's a communication issue. There's trust has been lost. So they seemed as unreliable and unqualified to be able to run that business or within that stuff. So that's the image that they've currently have got. So you're going to say the image that SHDE is portraying is quite unreliable. It's inconsistent. They're having issues with staff communication. They've got issues with suppliers. And then you're going to give an assessment of other organizations and the images they portray through their communication. This is where you can refer back to your own company and say, at this company, name them and say, this is the image that they've got. They've got an image where they are reliable, that they're consistent, and they are this because they communicate well. They make sure to follow up in a timely manner. You know, all the bits that really make you what effective communication is.
Yeah.
That type of thing. That say what's the best in the ideal world. What the best way would be, like having meetings and making sure that they review their work and that they're carrying out appraisals to make sure that everybody's fine and happy, paying people on time, all of that. So for a merit on the same Word document, you're going to provide a guidance for SHTE using examples of best practice from other organizations. So you choose other organizations as examples now. So you're going to analyze possible legal and ethical issues in relation to communication of information with organizations. So 1M1. This would be some of the GDPR that would come into this, and any ethical issues where if you're taking down data, you've got permission to take down data, what type of information, how you store it, all of those. And then 3M1 is evaluate the effectiveness of a range of communications, so verbal and non-verbal, in contributing to success of an organization. And this is where you're talking about, you know, how verbal communication helps you, but also how non-verbal communication, your body language, the way you dress, the way you physically convey yourself, all of those things will go into it. So that's task 1. That's a Word document.
Yeah.
Task 2, now for 4.1, you're going to design an oral presentation with supporting notes for customer-facing staff at SHTE Holding. So 4.1, physically, again, you're not physically writing anything for 4.1, but because you're going to make a PowerPoint, that will actually cover you for this.
Okay.
So the PowerPoint is 4.1 physically that you're making that there. Let's color that in there. So in that PowerPoint, remember when I said you could do a PowerPoint where you can choose a topic of your choosing? If you're going to be doing that, I think you'd still have to answer 2.1 and 2.2 in it. So there's no point in you wasting your time. Just answer these in it. You don't need to pick it on any other topics. These can be your topics. So A, formal communication systems that should be used to communicate with customers. So look at different communication systems, and we've looked at this in Learning Outcome 2. And then B, analyze the effectiveness of social media to communicate with customers. So use current examples. Like a lot of businesses now are going on Facebook or Instagram. They're doing all these. I saw the other day where somebody complained that there was a slug on their peas and Tesco did some funny remarks back or something like that. So it's a way to build rapport, isn't it? So you've got all of those examples you can use. And C is an assessment of the impact of relationships found in organizations on communications, on effective communications. That's 3.1. And then 3.2 is an assessment of the impact of non-verbal communication on oral communications. So it's like when you're communicating orally, but you're backing yourself up with how you're portraying yourself. You might be nodding or giving like sounds like but that's still classed as non-verbal within those, the way you dress and all them. All of these, Charlotte, the best thing I can recommend is go onto the PowerPoint and refer back to the indicative content. Do you know that little section underneath the spec sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah, LO1, LO2, LO3. Refer back to those because they're really going to guide you in making sure that you're putting the right type of things down into your assignment.
Okay, yeah.
So for a distinction, you're going to adapt your presentation materials to provide a summary to the senior management team members. And so these team members, they need to know your key messages and implications for business. So all this distinction one means is you're going to summarize everything you've done. You're just going to talk about what were your key messages, what sort of implications are there to the business, how can they go ahead and fix their communication issues. So you're just going to summarize A, B, C, and D.
Okay.
And then task 3. So using appropriate technology, please deliver your presentation to staff at SHDE Holdings. And then for a distinction, you need to deliver your adapted presentation to the senior management team in the form of a paper for the next meeting. So 5D1 is minutes of a meeting. We'd like you to create a minutes of meeting. In that little document that I showed you earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just create a minutes of, choose a topic on communications, or if you can get hold of a minutes of meeting from your work,
yeah.
And if it's any data protection, just use initials instead. Just submit that in. You don't need to go and create one particularly by yourself. So if you have access, or if you can get access, just screenshot that in, or scan it in, or even copy and paste. Make a little, use it if you've got it. If it's already on, normally it's electronic form, isn't it? They will have paper form, but normally they type it up. So if you can just copy and paste it in, that'll be fine as well. But if not, use that. Use this here, and then just talk about where it is, who you're talking to, so what date it was, who is going to be chairing it, which people are present, so you can talk, you just put their initials there, what time it was, what is the agenda, and you can write effective communication failures within the organization. And then you just put down little points of what you're going to be doing, just a couple of things each, and say, okay, AS is going to be actioning this, or ZB is going to be actioning it, or CD is going to action. Just put the initials down, and then just say meeting ended at what time, and when the next meeting is going to take place. Normally, like a month later, is within 30 days or so.
Okay, so that's the date and where it is and everything, just make them bits up, and then
you can make these bits up, yeah. So if you can't get access to one from work, then just make it up and just put a few things in and just put it down. Make sure you're just talking about communication failures or something similar to that. And there's a good few points that once you're doing the assignment, you'll know exactly what to put down in these. So yeah, that will cover that section that we're out there. Come into here. And then, so this part here, this one, will be physically put onto your Word document, the 5D one. For 4.2, you're not physically doing anything again, no writing. Your PowerPoint covers you for this. So that's because you did that PowerPoint. That's done. So task 4, so this again is on the written document. I only want 2 documents of you, 1 PowerPoint, 1 Word document. All of these tasks should be on the same one, yeah. So task 4, please attend a meeting with me. So this is what Asha is saying to you now. Using the written on oral communications from the task you have just completed, I will need you to, so for 4.3, assess the effectiveness of your oral presentation skills, review your own written communication, which is 5.4, including the conventions you have used, bringing a paper on these subjects to the meeting. So you're going to review your own written communication skills, and then also on how do you do those written skills? So in the same section, you're just going to talk about my written skills are this, and this. I think my strengths are here, my weaknesses here. And I do written communications by emails, letters, memos, minutes of meetings. You're just highlighting what you use.
Mm-hmm.
So bunch this together. You don't need to make them separate.
Okay.
And then C is assess the impact of technology on both oral and written communications, bringing a paper to the meeting. So again, ignore the paper to a meeting part. You're just doing a couple of paragraphs on the impact of technology on oral and written communications. Because obviously, technology now, we can do so many virtual meeting sites. We can have Google Teams, Zoom, Google Class. Why did I say Google Teams? Google Classroom. There's so many different ways that we can do oral communication. Written communication, you use these on a daily basis, technology-wise anyway. So you're doing your emails. You might even have work group chats via text messages. So those type of things are being used. So it's really just bring it back to what you use on a daily basis and then talk about those things.
Okay.
And then D is following our discussions, I wish you to produce notes of the meeting which accurately reflect our conversation. So 5.2 is you're just summarizing everything you've done. So this acts as your conclusion as well. So you're just summarizing what's happened, what sort of things you've seen overall, and how you're covering it, you know, just, summarize it onto one paragraph over here.
Okay.
So for this, with the actual presentation of how we want it, when you start off, I'd like you to do a content. Start off on the first page of your Word document. Whichever documents do, have your name and the title of the unit that you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what your student number is?
No.
Okay, no problem. I'll add that in for you, and then you'll know for your future ones. So I'll get that added in. After that, do a contents page. Copy and paste these questions in. And then when you've completed the full assignment, then tell me 4.3 is in page 12. 5.4 and 3.4 are on page 13. So go back and add page numbers. Also, in your Word document, insert your page numbers as well. Do you know where you can go into the insert section and you can do top or bottom, where do you want your page numbers inserted? They'll just be down about here.
So the content will that be task 1?
Let me show you. Hold it.
A, B, D.
Let me just stop this recording and I'll show you what I mean. Oh, and also, this is the report that she's given you. So you need to go through this report. Okay? And then this, I didn't even know this was available for you, but this is good. This is what I'm going to look at when I'm going to mark your work. So I'm going to look at that indicative content and I'm going to look at this guideline here. And then if it follows that, and then it's fine, we'll mark it off. If not, I'll tell you exactly what's missing and you can go back and rework it.
Okay.
So I'll